Hello and welcome to the first episode in my D&D Recap series. Today we're going to be doing the Problem Children campaign. We're going to be doing the first campaign session, so let's get to it. Starting from the beginning of the campaign, we enter to see E and Gwyn being assigned a mission by Gundren Rockseeker. The task was to transport 2 prisoners and some supplies to the town of Phandalin, a derelict mining town which has recently had a boom of productivity due to the prison labour that was implemented. This initiative was made to allow the prisoners to work instead of rotting in their cell till their sentence was up or till they died. They would usually die anyway though. The prisoners that were being transported were the cult founder Sook Lightwalker, aka Soup because no one wanted to refer to him as Sook, and the potential serial killer / general mayhem inducing Heck. The transport had been pretty lax other than a few minor escape attempts by Soup, with Heck just kind of sleeping in the back, because I was actually there at that point. However, about 2 hours outside of the town, the party saw a dark-haired horse lying dead by the side of the road, stuck with 2 arrows in its chest. The driver Gwyn, seeing this, looked her horses straight in the eyes and said, "Don't worry, everything dies eventually. It's just a matter of when." This immediately gave the horses an existential crisis and kind of gave them a mental breakdown and traumatized them. But eventually they shakily trotted along until by the side of the road they saw a small goblin who has now become infamous amongst the group, known as Mr Jimn. He was a strange little thing with an ill-fitting dirty orange suit and a brown flat cap and a very prominent chin. He walked up to the passenger seat and pulled himself up, greeting the party with a hearty, "Hey boy, that's a nice cart you've got there. I bet it's such a burden. Tell you what, I'll take it off your hands for no fee whatsoever." Very confused by this, Gwyn called her co-guard over to come make sense of the little green man. E climbed over and saw the man talking to himself. Suddenly he whirled around and went, well, looks like we've got a thief on our hands. Now tell me, how many years does an average insect live?" Ignoring the question, E tried to kind of usher him off like a normal person would, but persisting, he scratched his head and brought out a flea. "What is this creature's lifespan to the exact second?" Stunned by this, E could only laugh at the strange little man. His expression did not change, however, and he just took the flea and ate it. As he chewed it and swallowed it, he said, "Exactly 2 days, 3 hours, 24 seconds, 53 milliseconds, and 2 steps." Stunned into silence, both party members watched him as he walked through the wagon, mumbling to himself with no opposition. He kicked the latch of the caravan open, causing Heck, who was leaning against it, to fall off the road, unconscious. Jumping off, Mr Jimn walked back in front of the party and greeted the guards, who again were now just in tears at the absolute absurdity of the situation. Slightly disgruntled by this, he climbed onto one of the horses and pulled out his knife. The other goblins, who had now surrounded the cart, revealed themselves, and a massive clash between the two groups began. While the goblins distracted them, the bugbears, the goblins' bosses, took the opportunity to steal Heck from the group and replaced him with a doppelganger. During the battle, when the goblins began losing, Mr Jimn and a small group of the goblins fled, and with a final bow, Mr Jimn disappeared, leaving the party to the bugbears. At this point, Heck awoke being carried on the shoulder of a bugbear, being carried through the forest. While pretending to be asleep, he unbuckled the massive warhammer on its back and just kind of slid off and just scuttled up a tree with the warhammer in his hand. As the bugbear was looking for him all around the floor, thinking the little wimp couldn't get into a tree, the mad pest kind of just snuck into the branches of the tree and just waited, perched on a branch, for the bugbear to get closer. And when he did, Heck jumped down with a furious screech and just crushed the bugbear with the weight of its own warhammer, crushing its neck and tearing the bugbear's head clean off, beheading the creature in one go. Heck then stuck the head of the bugbear on a stick and called his fellow bugbear over, which made it go into a rage, and it took so long to defeat the second bugbear that when Heck finally stole the kill, I mean completely legitimately 100% single-handedly, like, killed it, he fell asleep on it. Its corpse, being all bloody, just kind of, for a turn, had him just sleeping on it. After that turn was over, he sprinted back to help the party and saw a duplicate of himself helping to fight the enemy. The party was confused by this sudden turn of events and were caught completely by surprise and decided it was best not to trust either Heck because you wouldn't trust Heck anyway. So, thinking he could kill them if he surprised them, the doppelganger revealed himself to be the doppelganger and attacked E, who was closest to him. Now, here's where it gets strange. E ran into the bushes to hide from the doppelganger, but the doppelganger followed, and not knowing what to do, E stood up, ran the opposite direction to the bugbear, screaming "Ah!" as the doppelganger, thinking that E was of sound mind, ran the other way, going "Ah!" The party, immediately knowing that E was the only one mentally unstable enough to do that, focused all their attacks on the doppelganger until they were out of weapons. So Heck just charged in and headbutted the doppelganger so hard that the liquid body became brittle and shattered, leaving a bruise on Heck's head. Wanting to stop this from happening to anyone else who was on the track, the party convinced the goblins who had hidden in the cave, in their own cave, through a mix of magic and seagull screams by Soup, managed to convince the goblins that their god Maglabet was not fulfilled with their worship and commanded them that they must pray 24 hours a day, only to be allowed to leave for food and sleep. Knowing they were now safe, they took refuge in a clearing in the forest, where Heck asked Gwyn if he could stuff the bugbear heads. So she did, and then he got what he referred to as friendship heads, which he then gave to E. He gave one of them to E, because he recognized that she was the only one as crazy as he was, which got them to be friends and started the guards questioning if they should leave the prisoners in the mines or let them go. And that's where session 1 ended. So I think that's where we'll end this episode too. Goodbye.